And then there was another chap who was a mutual friend of ours, Frank Ferguson, and he said, oh, why don't you talk to Dr Judy? And so he arranged a telephone conversation, which would have been, gosh, I think that was early 2007, I can't remember the exact date. And then we started corresponding and started to collaborate a bit, because she was developing these sets of pages about the destruction of the World Trade Center, and she illustrated to me that the buildings didn't collapse, there weren't bombs, and they actually turned to dust before they hit the ground. And this was kind of a gradual thing that I sort of absorbed by a process of osmosis almost, in talking to her, looking at the pictures, looking at the videos, listening to the witness testimonies. And so in the course of 2007, I really began to realise that she was correct, and that the scholars group that I joined had primarily been set up as a kind of like a herding operation. It had been set up to kind of channel people and encourage them to go down a certain route, mainly oriented around the bombs in the buildings, or
the controlled demolition.
Exactly. On one of the satellite pictures, which was Hurricane Erin. And that travelled in a straight line for 4 days prior to 9/11, and then made a right-hand turn on the 12th. So as I say to people, there are two scenarios about that. Either it was a coincidence, or it wasn't a coincidence. You know, and if you take into account several things that she then researched, such as it being closest at 8 o'clock in the morning, the storm was at its widest extent, it was moving at its slowest speed, the storm system, during the events of 9/11. I think the barometric pressure and the wind speed in New York City were constant for 16 hours. And the temperature was constant for about 12 hours, I think, something like that. So it's like they'd sort of moved it there and held it there to do something. And nobody talks about this. But the point is, 9/11, you want to be looking at energy issues, weather issues, and how they've kept this covered up, and how, if whoever's watching this for the first time hasn't heard of this, you've got to first establish whether I'm telling the truth or not, and then if I am telling the truth, why you don't know about it.
What was used? I know it was something to do with the Hutchinson Effect, wasn't it? That goes into it. If you could explain a bit more about that. So
of course.
This is something that's I just recently came across. So it'd be nice to know a bit more about.
Right, sure.
The experiments.
Well, what Dr Wood was doing, going back a little bit to sort of 2006. She gathered all these pictures. She looked at 40,000 pictures, because the thing with 9/11 is you've got such a lot of evidence. A lot of things happened since 9/11, and people write to me about them, and there's not as much evidence. You know, with 9/11 you've got video, you've got lots of videos, tens of thousands of pictures, seismic data, weather data, 10,000 people were in New York, they saw it, so you've got hundreds of witness testimonies. Most of these other events, you know, Sandy Hook, Las Vegas shooting, 7/7 in London, Barcelona events, you haven't got as many witnesses, you haven't got all that data. Let's throw that in for this one. Right, Hutchinson Effect. So when you've got a lot of data, you can look for other data which matches that. Dr Wood was looking for things about energy effects, because she'd seen it wasn't a kinetic effect. There wasn't, when the towers were destroyed, you didn't have something crashing into them to do all that damage. Alleged plane crashes, yes, but alleged plane crashes, real or fake, don't turn buildings to dust. So how do you turn something to dust? Do you bash it? Do you bomb it?
So basically,
do you burn it?
Incidental to the tower.
Correct. So how do you turn something to dust? She was basically looking for things which could turn the buildings to dust. So she'd seen these effects, and then she realised that in John Hutchinson effects, and to explain what that is, John Hutchinson is, I should say, a Canadian experimental physicist, a researcher, and he had been trying to reproduce the experiments of Nikola Tesla, and he started doing that in 1979. And he basically realised that Tesla was seeing energy effects. He wanted to create energy effects.
Free energy.
Yeah, exactly. And Tesla built the Wardenclyffe Tower and stuff, and you can read about that. So John was looking at all of that, trying to find out what he could do, what was going on, what he could reproduce. And he gathered together some equipment, some old microwave generators, radar equipment. He was using a Tesla coil, which is a special type of electrical coil, which has got copper wound wires. And you can use it to build up a very high voltage, and you can also pulse it as well. You can build up a couple of million volts. So he was using that, and then he was basically setting up his lab so that this energy, electrical energy, magnetic field, microwaves, could be mixed together in an area. And he was seeing levitation, he was seeing metal melting, he even got things to disappear. And so he started to get attention. He got on local TV, people seeing his experiments, watching these effects. And then he was visited in 1983 by a chap called Colonel John Alexander. And he worked for Los Alamos National Laboratories. And he appeared to know the effects that John was seeing. He knew that when John did certain things, certain effects would be observed, such as levitation, such as metal bending, certain effects on water and stuff. Alexandra, according to what John told us, appeared to be familiar with this. I point out that with Dr Judy, who's the example really because of the way she's done it, and she is a trained scientist. It was 3 years before she started speaking about 9/11. She'd drawn certain conclusions after 3 years, and she started sharing stuff publicly. Well, it was kind of semi-public. It was on a public website, but she wasn't sending the links around to anybody.